Well, thank you guys for coming to this session talking about abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Now, since most of you guys are gonna be graduating from medical school, this topic is very, very important for you guys to know because all of you guys are probably gonna become a mandated reporter. So once you become a medical professional, you are a mandated reporter. That means that you have to know about these A&E situations, so abuse, neglect, and exploitation situations. Okay, so you will learn how to what those are, A&E, what they are, and you will learn how to make a judgment call if you need to if you have to report. Okay, so here is on the left bottom side. This is my contact information, and any questions, feel free to give me a call to email me. Now that said, so a little bit about myself. So I am the program director of the long-term care ombudsman program. And for those of you who have not heard about the word or ombudsman or this program, um, this is a federal program, and the federal program, this ombudsman program, every state has its own ombudsman program. And in the state of Missouri, we have my territory. It is about a little bit over 500 long-term care facilities over 39 counties on the east side of Missouri. That is my jurisdiction. So this program is to advocate for residents that live in long-term care to resolve issues when these issues are reported to the ombudsman program. That said, so we have to know, the ombudsman, we have to know what abuse, neglect, and exploitation are in order to deal with them. Okay, that is why you guys are here. That is why I am teaching the class today. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so this is what we're gonna learn today. Okay, so Missouri's uh Missouri's abuse, neglect, and exploitation, it is overseen by this entity. It's called the APS, and that is Missouri Adult Protective Services. Okay, so Division of Senior and Disability Services actually is the one that that is the umbrella over APS. Now, APS, they promote safety, independence, and quality of life for vulnerable adults who are being abused or are in danger of being abused, neglected by self or others, or financially exploited, and who are unable to protect themselves. Okay, so that's the definition of this program. And now, before we move on, though, I'm gonna need to explain this. So this the the material that I made for what you are seeing right now, it is actually a workshop. It is a material for a workshop. That workshop is probably about 3 hours long, and we don't have 3 hours today. And but half of this material, it is actually about after a report is made, then what's happening behind the scenes. So in other words, when the investigation starts, when you make that report, then what's gonna happen? So that is the later part of this presentation, which we probably don't have time to go through because, like I said, this is actually a probably 2.5, 3 hour kind of workshop. So that part about what's happening behind the scene, you can see that in my slides, but we probably will not go through that today. Okay. So this is the eligible adult criteria for the APS program. Okay, so 60 years and older, or 18 to 55 years with mental or physical disabilities. Okay, now who are the mandated reporters? Now, you guys, all of you guys are medical students. You guys are gonna graduate and then become a medical professionals. No matter you are a doctor, you are a nurse practitioner, you are EMT, you are even CNA. You are a mandated reporters. Okay, now outside of that, if you work in a say nursing home, work in a long-term care facility, work in a hospital, work in a clinic, work in a dentist office, even if you are not a medical professional, even say you are a nurse in that the clinic, you are a secretary. I mean, not a nurse. You are a secretary in a clinic. Let's say you are a groundkeeping person in a nursing home. You are still a mandated reporter. Okay, that is where you are. It is not really about what kind of job title you have. Okay, but then outside of that particular setting, let's say if you are a doctor, then of course you are still a mandated reporter. But then let's say if you are a secretary in a nursing home, then in a nursing home, yes, you are a mandated reporter. But then when you are outside of the nursing home, no, you are not necessarily a mandated reporter anymore. Okay. So this is the legal ground of the authority from APS, and then you guys can look at this. We don't really need to have a discussion about this. Okay, so now this pie chart is the demographics about all the different forms of abuse. Okay, and then let's go through them, actually each one of them. Okay, now so all of these you can see on the right side: self-neglect, financial exploitation, then a caregiver neglect, and then emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. All of these, they are under the big umbrella of abuse. Okay, so the big umbrella of abuse. And now under that big umbrella of abuse, then we kind of divide them into these little different categories. Okay. Now, um, I'm gonna talk about the traditional abuse that we usually hear. Okay, what is the traditional abuse that we usually hear? That would be, say, physical abuse, right? That would be sexual abuse. You can see on the bottom of on the right side, that's sexual abuse, which is the percentage is 1% that's reported, right, in that pie chart. And then so physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. Now, these three in Missouri law are considered the actual abuse that actual forms of abuse that actually have a legal definition about. Okay, so physical, sexual, and emotional, these three. Now, when you, let's say, if in the future you work with older adults, especially older adults in nursing homes, or sometimes you work with older adults that are in their own home and they have home health care, then you would encounter, say, oh, your patient, an older adult, they report that well, someone is screaming at me, someone is yelling at me, and then they are very rude, they are not professional, and that is verbal abuse. So we all hear about that term, verbal abuse, right? Okay. In Missouri law, there's no such a thing as verbal abuse. Okay, so verbal abuse, that's a terminology that we usually use when we work in this in the medical field, when we work with older adults, when we work with nursing homes. We hear that term kind of getting thrown around all the time. But just know that in Missouri law, there's no such a thing as verbal abuse. Okay. And then you would say, well, how are you gonna have how do you not have verbal abuse in the law, right? Well, the the thought process behind it is that if someone is yelling at you, if someone is screaming at you, very rude, that would cause emotional stress. So if that causes you emotional stress, that means that it is emotional abuse. So verbal abuse, that this term usually we use, it is actually included in the emotional abuse. Okay. So let's take a look at all of these. So we can see the one that is that has the least percentage, that is sexual abuse here. That is 1% in Missouri, right? So now you probably can guess that sexual abuse 1%, that is a underreported number, which is actually true. That is very much underreported. And this underreported number, and I don't think I have to tell you why they are underreported, right? Because of a stigma, because of it's hard to prove, all kinds of things, right? Now, in a nursing home, though, so if you work with older adults in the nursing home, uh, it we actually helped pass a law in the state of Missouri in 2018, so 2018. So prior to 2018, there was no law to actually mandate these nursing homes to report sexual crime, sexual violence to the law enforcement entity. They were required to report to the Department of Health and Senior Services, DHSS. Okay, but DHSS is not a law enforcement entity, so not until August 2018, then we helped to pass a law, and this law actually now mandates all the long-term care facilities to not only report to DHSS, also reports to the cops, the police, so that when there is a sexual crime, when there is a sexual violence case that happened in their facility, now they have to report to both. So that's the law. Okay. Now, sexual abuse, though, it is hard to prove in a nursing home. It is also because that a lot of people, especially older adults that live in nursing homes, they have cognitive impairments. They might have dementia, different forms of dementia. They might have other cognitive issues. Therefore, it is very hard for them to report. Okay, so that's why this sexual abuse, it is underreported, and the percentage is only 1% among all the mistreatment and abuse cases reported to the state. Okay, so this 6% is physical abuse. Of course, you can see it's there, but my guess is always that the physical abuse is also more than that. Okay. However, as a medical professional, we always need to keep in mind that in physical abuse, what you can see is bruises in an older adult's skin, right? Now, when you see bruises in an older adult's skin, you need to keep in mind that a lot of times an older adult, when they take blood thinner, then that they would it would become very easy for them to actually get bruises. So it doesn't necessarily mean that when they have bruises, that's abuse. However, when you have bruises in an older adult's skin, and that's your patient, you need to pay more attention to it. Okay, and then when you need to report, you need to report. Okay. 10% is emotional abuse, which, like we said earlier, that includes verbal abuse. Okay. 15%, it's a caregiver neglect. So, caregiver neglect, it happens in nursing homes, sure. It also happens in the community. Okay. Um, so caregiver neglect, it could be caused by professional caregivers, sure. It could be caused by the family as well. Okay. But I'm gonna give you a case, a story, which actually happens in a nursing home. That was probably the first or second year when I first started this job managing the ombudsman program. So this one morning, this lady who got severe dementia, who is wheelchair bound in the nursing home. So the caregiver uh pushes the lady to the dining hall to actually have breakfast, and the lady can still feed herself, so there's no feeding needed. Okay, so the CNA pushed the old lady to the dining hall and then parked the old lady's wheelchair against the wall, and then push the table to be in front of the old lady, and then the lady's breakfast is on the table, right? And then the CNA then walked away to do other things because the lady doesn't need a feeding. Okay, so she walked away for, say, half an hour, 40 minutes, thinking that after she's done taking care of other business, then she'll be back, right? So this lady, the resident, or to you guys, the patient, she was eating, and then once she was done with eating, 15, 20 minutes later, she was done eating. She wanted to get out of that wheelchair, that, between the table and the bed and the wall behind her back. She couldn't, because she did not know how to unpark the wheelchair, and then she doesn't know how to unpark the wheelchair, so she doesn't know how to push away the table. So then in the dining hall by herself, she is then yelling, help, help, help. No one came to help her, but she was not in danger at all, okay, at that point. So then, just on the same day, there were nursing home surveyors. That's, our internal language. We call nursing home surveyors. We call them the Division of Regulation Licensure. It's DRL, okay, Division of Regulation Licensure, nursing home surveyors. So a surveyor walked by the cafeteria, and then saw this lady, yelling, help, help, help. And then the surveyor went to the lady, and then turned out that figuring out the entire thing, that the lady got kind of trapped in her own wheelchair, and against the wall behind her, and then between the wall and the dining table. So then even though the lady was not in any danger, the nursing home actually got cited for caregiver neglect. Okay, because she was trapped between the wall and the table, and then she was that's considered restraint, and that's caused by caregiver neglect. Okay, so when you are making judgment on if this is actually a neglect, if this is actually a danger to your patient, keep in mind that you need to take the context. You need to take your context into consideration. Okay, now for me though, I'm not a DRL person. I'm not a surveyor. I'm an ombudsman. And so can I say I completely agree with the DRL's citation for that's a caregiver neglect? I cannot say I'm 100% in agreement. However, do I understand where they come from? Do I understand why they had to issue that citation? Yes, I do. And I do think that the citation needs to be issued. Okay, because this time no danger happened. That does not guarantee next time no danger is gonna happen. Okay, so let's go on for the next part. That is financial exploitation. Okay, financial exploitation. It is 21%, and that is a actually a significant on the report as well. Okay, significant on the report, especially for these older adults in nursing homes, or older adults in their own home in the community. Now, the person, the people who commit financial exploitation, most of them, they are actually family members. Okay, family members, they commit financial exploitation. A daughter put mom in the nursing home, and the daughter is quote unquote managing mom's social security, managing mom's money, until one day then mom's nursing home fee is not being paid for, and then then turn out the daughter has been stealing mom's money, stealing mom's money from mom's bank account, all that kind of thing. That actually happens way more often than we know. However, it is very much underreported. Why? Because when you talk with these older adults, would you want to report this to the law enforcement? Would you want to report this to the hotline? In the hotline, the APS, they actually have this little group of people. They are called SIU. It's a special investigation unit, SIU. And then SIU, their expertise is to investigate these financial exploitation. And very often we encounter that the older adults, they refuse, they decline to actually report this to the law enforcement, to report this to Department of Health and Senior Services. And the reason is that they don't want their kids to get in trouble. They don't want their kids to be put in prison. And even though they actually got their money all stolen, and now they don't have money to even pay for nursing home, and they have to actually apply to Medicaid, they still don't want to do anything about it. And then I actually have seen a whole lot of those cases in my career, but I cannot even remember when was the last time a financial exploitation case that was actually reported to the law enforcement or to DHSS, which is actually very sad. Okay. Now, self-neglect, we will talk about that in a bit. Let's move on. So this is the definition of abuse, okay? So abuse is a form of mistreatment by one individual that cause harm to another person, okay? So that, and then the one below, that is Missouri law, okay? So you can read that, and then I don't have to explain that, okay? So these are the signs of abuse, okay? So including slapping, hitting, beating, bruising, or causing someone physical pain or injury or suffering, okay? Also include confining an adult against his or her will, such as locking someone in a room or trying or tying them him or her to furniture. These are all considered abuse. Now, think about the story that I just told you a couple of minutes ago about that older lady that got trapped in her own wheelchair and did not know how to unpark the wheelchair, did not know how to push herself. Now you think about that and then put that into this definition of physical abuse. Now you know why the nursing home had to be cited for that case because the older lady, she was trapped, restrained in her own wheelchair between the wall and the table in front of her. So then that's considered actually restraint abuse. Okay, so then that's why that had to be cited. However, again, if you actually consider the entire context, you know feel bad for the CNA, right? But that the law is the law, right? Okay. So these are the examples of abuse. Okay, so you can look at them yourself. Okay. Oh, on the right hand side on the bottom, restraints. Okay. So restraints in nursing homes though, they actually is a little bit broader. The definition is a little bit broader. So of course we know restraint, the actual restraint, you're tied up to the furniture, to your bed, to the wheelchair, that's restraint. But there's also chemical restraint, right? And then someone's got drugged up, and that's considered restraint. Now, um, bed railing, those 8-inch tall bed rail in on a hospital bed in a nursing home or in the hospital, it could be considered as restraint. Therefore, it is a form of abuse. It could be considered as a restraint if 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 this older adult cannot get themselves out of the bed because the bed railing, those 8-inch tall bed railing, are a barrier to them. Okay, because sometimes when you have dementia to the point that you forget how to navigate yourself, how to maneuver yourself outside of bed, because there's this 8-inch tall thing on either on the left, on the right side to stop you from doing so. Now that becomes a restraint. So therefore, the point here is that restraint, it has to be put in a context. It does not mean that when you have a bed railing up, that is restraint. No. If an older adult knows how to get themselves out of the bed, given there is a 8-inch tall bed railing there, that is not a restraint. So in other words, in a nursing home, they have to make sure that this older adult knows how to navigate, knows how to utilize these bed railing and knows how to not get trapped in between these bed railings on the left and right sides. And now that is not a restraint. Otherwise, if you put up those 8-inch tall bed railing, they become restraint when they don't know how to get out of them. Okay. So more signs of abuse. Now we are talking about emotional abuse, right? Emotional abuse, like earlier we talked about, verbal abuse actually is included in this. Okay, and then you can look at these things. Okay, these the description. So signs of caregiver neglect. So the one example I gave, caregiver neglect that earlier we talked about, right? Okay. Um, Neglect can happen in the community, okay? And so meaning not in nursing home. And then look at the bottom part of this paragraph. Neglect can take the form of withholding food, medications, or access to healthcare professionals. Okay, so now those are considered caregiver neglect as well. So in other words, you don't have to actively neglect someone. You just as a caregiver, you don't provide the access to your caregiving receivers. You don't provide access to them for food, for water, for medications. That's considered neglect, which is a form of abuse. Okay. So examples of caregiver neglect, you guys can read these things. Okay, so I'm not going to go through. Self-neglect. So the majority of self-neglect, it happens in the community. Okay, and then so in the community, self-neglect, it usually comes in two forms. Okay, you probably need to remember these two forms. What are the two forms? The both are extremes, and on a spectrum of owning belongings, right? For example, so I have everything I need in the house, including foods, including water, medications, and everything, right? And let's put that in the middle part of this spectrum. So on the very end of one side, that is I got nothing. Okay, I got nothing. I have no foods, I have no electricity, no water, no medication, no access to my doctors. I have nothing. Okay, zero. That is self-neglect. Okay, but then on the other extreme of this spectrum is you have way too many, and there's a term for that that's called hoarding, right? And then we all have heard about the hoarding cases, right? Like look at that picture. So hoarding is a form of self-neglect. And it is not just about I forgot to put away my to throw out my pizza boxes for for 2 days, and then I have I love to collect the books and magazines, and now I have a little bit too many books and magazines. It's not about that, okay? Then how do we judge if this is actually a hoarding situation about books, or this is just me, a book collector that I have a lot of books? How do you define which one's which, right? So hoarding, when you are too many things, when you are too much stuff, create a barrier. then it becomes a safety issue. It becomes a liability issue, and that actually stops you from accessing pathway to safety, for example. So older adults, the person who actually lived in this house on the in this photo, she actually walked with a walker, okay? And then she had a lot of stuff in her house. Now, in her house, and then she got this little tiny little like path throughout the house from the door, from her entrance, the door to her couch, and then from her couch to the kitchen, to the bathroom. And there's so much stuff that when she moves things around, when she sits on her chair, on her sofa, things in front of her, they actually block the view from the TV, so she cannot even see the TV. There are things in front of her TV. Okay, so with that, when the stuff, the belongings, the things, when they become a liability issue, when they become a safety issue, now that is hoarding. Okay, so you will encounter a hoarding situation when you work with older adults, and a lot of times it is not that they don't want to clean that up. A lot of times it's that, one, they've lived in the house for way too long, and they kind of hanging on things, right? Things got kind of sentimental values to them, and they don't want to just get rid of them. They and then now that actually becomes, as you are staying in the house for longer and longer, 50 years later, 60 years later, now you are older, and physically you don't have capability to actually deal with the things anymore. And that is why a lot of times hoarding situations happen to older adults. Okay, so remember this: self-neglect, a lot of most of time it happens in the community, not in a facility. And then most of times when it happens, it is either you got nothing in the house, or you got way too much stuff in the house. That's two extremes. Okay. So examples of self-neglect, then you guys can see, and then this is how you actually make a judgment call. Especially when you see your patients in the clinic, in the hospital, and not in their own home. And this is how you can kind of make a judgment, poor hygiene, loss of weight, these kind of things, right? So sexual abuse, this is what, as we talked about, it is very much underreported, less than 1% in the entire state of Missouri. Okay. Financial exploitation. We talked about this. So to pretend to be someone else, to sign, to steal their money, to steal their assets without their consent, without their understanding, or have their consent, but they are actually in a compromised kind of mental status, or they have cognitive issues, and now even though they are not deemed incapacitated by their doctor, by the court, so theoretically they're still their own responsible party. They're still their own decision maker. Now you tell them, okay, Mary, now I'm gonna need you to sign this check, and you can still sign because you are not deemed incapacitated, and you can sign, and then Mary is willing to sign. and then I'm gonna get the all the money out of her account, and I'm gonna spend the money myself. That's exploitation. Okay, even though they actually sign a check. Okay. Examples of financial exploitation. There's more of these things, okay, and then you guys can look at those, and then I'm not going to go through. So bullying is the newest form of abuse that got put in Missouri law. Okay, so now um, bullying got put into Missouri law, but there's one thing that we've been working on to put into Missouri law, that is retaliation. And retaliation in Missouri, that is not in the law. So in other words, when we work with nursing home residents, and then they sometimes they're afraid of reporting, and the reason they're afraid of reporting, well, things are not going to get better, one, and then two is that if I report, they're going to know it's me, and then if they know it's me, then they're going to start doing even worse things to me. That's retaliation. However however it is hard to prove retaliation, and that is why we do not have retaliation officially in Missouri law as a form of abuse just yet. So we worked quite a few years until recently, well, a couple of years ago, we were able to put bullying into Missouri law, but now retaliation still not. Okay, so bullying, most cases that we were able to deal with, we were able to catch, uh, it is actually cyberbullying, and the reason we can catch those cyberbullying case, because whatever you do online, you're gonna leave a trace. Okay, we are able to find evidence online, so don't just casually put things out online. Okay, that is that is a piece of advice for you guys professionals. Don't do that. Okay, now that, however, is how we can actually deal with those bullying cases. You think that the residents, older adults in nursing homes, they are just sitting there, knitting sweaters, and then playing bingos? No, that is not what they do. Okay, well, they might do a little bit of that, but for the most part, no, that is not what they do. Okay, and bully actually happens in nursing homes, a lot of them. Okay, so but let's say if we are thinking about, oh, bully, a group of cliquish kind of high school girls, they are very mean girls to another girl who is not part of them, that kind of bully. Well, that kind of bully, it is hard to catch, because a lot of those that happened throughout verbal communications. Then with that, we cannot catch them. But bullying, right now, we are able to make it official in the Missouri law. That is because a lot of bully cases happen online. That is why we can do it. Okay. Um, Talking about bullying in the law, then retaliation is not in the law, as I mentioned. So the reason retaliation is hard to be defined is that retaliation actually has a causality in it. Okay, so this first thing happens, and then there's a second thing. So first thing happened, that is that when I report you, you actually did not give me a hot dinner, and then every night you give me cold dinner. I report you. first thing. And then the second thing, oh, then you're gonna do other things back to me. So there is a causality between the first thing and the second thing. Now that is retaliation, right? But in order for us to prove there is a connection between first thing and second thing so that a retaliation case can be established, it is very challenging. It is not that easy to do. So well, I reported that the CNA John always brings my dinner late so that my dinner is cold. Then I report that. Then John then start doing even worse. Now when I hit that call light and then John does not come to change my depends for 3 hours when I need my remote, and then when I need the fresh water, and then John doesn't give them to me. Can I say that's a retaliation? That's caused by me reporting John giving me cold dinner. Well, I can say that, but I cannot prove that because John is going to go, when I report that, well, that's the retaliation. John is going to go, well, no, that's not retaliation. I did not go to you to get to change your depends. That's simply because I was doing other things, serving other residents, serving other patients, and that is why your call light is being delayed. So I cannot prove that he's lying. So it is very hard to prove someone's retaliation act. Okay, and that is why so far retaliation is not really in Missouri law. Although we know that happens, we know that happens very often. Okay, harassment is another form of abuse, and then you guys can read here. So the first degree harassment first degree is a felony, and then harassment second degree is a misdemeanor. Okay, you guys can read this. So when to report? So this is when you need to report. Okay, my suggestion is this: when in doubt, you need to report, even though you cannot verify if this is actually an abuse, but your gut feelings are telling you that this could be an abuse case, right? But you are seeing your patients in the hospital, in the clinic. You probably are not seeing them at home or in their nursing home, right? So, but you are suspecting there might be mistreatment, there might be abuse, there might be neglect that's happening, then you need to report. Because once you report, to verify if it actually happened, that is not your job. You are not an investigator. You are a mandated reporter. You are not to investigate. So the person who will be investigated, that is APS people, Adult Protective Services people. Okay, that is their job. And the worst that could happen is, well, they come back to you and they go, well, we did our part and investigation done. There, it's not an abuse case. That would be the worst. So my encouragement for you guys is, when in doubt, you need to report. Okay, so this is the abuse neglect hotline. The entire state shares this one number. When you call this number, then you describe to the person who answers this call, this number. They are in Jeff City, and they are functioning more like a kind of dispatch, okay, dispatch service. So you tell them what's going on. You are suspecting there is a hospital, there is an abuse case. You saw this person in the hospital or in the clinic. and then they will take your information, and then they will decide, well, this is in the community, or this is in a long-term care facility. If this is a community, they will send this to this group of people, and if this is a long-term care case, then they will send this case to the long-term care section. Okay, but that's not for you to worry. Okay, so the first link on the top, that link is actually a form. You can fill that out. On the second link, so the second link on the bottom, that is actually the Department of Health and Senior Services portal, and then you can actually hit that, click that link, and then fill out the form on the portal. Okay, so and then after this slide, the rest is gonna be after the call. After you make that abuse phone call, then what's gonna happen behind the scene? Okay, like I mentioned earlier, we are not going through the rest of this information, because this is the information. They are good for you to know what would be happening after you make the call, but then we really don't have time to go through this part. The most important part for you guys to know is to know what is abuse, neglect, exploitation, and then to know how to make a judgment call about those, and then to actually make that phone call. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through these. And the state office, they cannot do these things. Okay, they cannot transport, they cannot remove or evict an adult from their own home. Let's say if that's a hoarding situation, they just don't have the authority. Okay, they cannot place an adult in a mental health facility. They cannot force an adult to change their behaviors or lifestyles. They just can't. Okay. Every year, the June the 16th, I mean June the 15th, that is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Okay, so just keep in mind. So you are not just gonna be aware of elder abuse on that day. You're gonna be aware of that all the time, because you are a medical professional. At the end, this is the link. If you have not go through do your part about the survey, please do so. And then I am gonna get out of the sharing. Okay, so that is all the material that we have today. We have enough. We have the time for today. Okay, so any questions for me?
If there's any questions, you're welcome to unmute and ask, or you can type it in the chat, whichever you prefer.
Sure.
It doesn't look like there's any questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much for presenting today. We appreciate it.
Sure, certainly. You're welcome. And thank you guys for the opportunity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. And everybody, once you finish your demographic survey, you are free to disconnect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.